There is a specific kind of exhaustion that lives in the bones of people who were never allowed to be children. You can see it in their eyes sometimes, a heaviness that doesn't match their age. They're 30, but they feel 60. They're laughing, but somewhere deep inside, there's still that 7-year-old standing in the kitchen, trying to figure out how to fix everything, because that's what they learned early. That survival meant growing up faster than their body was ready for. That love was something you earned by being useful, by being quiet, by never being a burden. And no one ever told them the cost of that. No one ever warned them that the child they buried would spend a lifetime trying to claw their way back to the surface. Let me paint you a picture. You're 8 years old. Your parent is crying in the next room, or they're drunk, or they're screaming, or they're just absent in a way that makes the house feel like a tomb. And in that moment, something inside you shifts. You stop being a child who needs comfort, and you become a child who gives it. You tiptoe around the house, reading the emotional temperature of every room before you enter. You learn that your feelings are too much, too loud, too inconvenient, so you shrink them. You smile when you're sad. You say you're fine when you're drowning. You become the emotional shock absorber for everyone around you. And the world calls you mature, responsible, wise beyond your years. But no one stops to ask what you had to sacrifice to become that person. No one asks what it costs a child to play therapist to their own parents. This is what psychologists call It's when the roles reverse, when the child becomes the caregiver and the adult becomes the one who needs taking care of. And it's not always obvious. It's not always a parent asking their child to pay the bills or cook dinner every night, though sometimes it is. More often, it's subtle. It's a parent who leans on their child for emotional support. It is a mother who treats her daughter like a best friend and unloads her marriage problems onto her. It is a father who expects his son to be the man of the house at 10 years old. It's the unspoken expectation that you hold it together because no one else can. And here's the thing. When this happens, it doesn't just affect your childhood. It rewires your entire nervous system. It changes the way your brain develops. Because when a child is forced to be hypervigilant, constantly scanning for danger, constantly managing other people's emotions, their brain gets stuck in survival mode. The amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for detecting threats, becomes overactive. The prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for rational thinking and emotional regulation, doesn't develop the way it should. So you grow up with a nervous system that's always on high alert, always waiting for the next crisis, always convinced that safety is just an illusion. Studies have shown that children who experience parentification are at a higher risk for anxiety disorders, depression, and even post-traumatic stress disorder in adulthood. One study published in the Journal of Family Psychology found that adults who were parentified as children reported significantly lower levels of self-esteem and higher levels of emotional distress compared to those who had more traditional childhoods. Another study from the American Journal of Orthopsychiatry revealed that parentified children often struggle with forming healthy relationships later in life because they never learned what secure attachment looks like. They never learned that it's okay to need people. They never learned that love doesn't have to be earned through service and sacrifice. They only learned that their value is tied to their usefulness. And that belief doesn't just disappear when you turn 8. It follows you into every relationship, every job, every friendship. It whispers in your ear that if you stop being helpful, people will leave. That if you show your pain, you'll be too much. That rest is something you have to earn, not something you deserve simply because you're human. Think about the adults, who can't sit still. The ones who are always busy, always doing something, always taking care of everyone else. The ones who say yes to everything, even when they're falling apart. The ones who smile through their pain and never ask for help. There's a good chance they grew up too fast. There is a good chance they learned early that their needs did unmatter as much as everyone else. And now, even in adulthood, they're still playing that role. Still trying to earn love by being indispensable. Still terrified that if they stop performing, they'll be abandoned. Because here's what happens when you grow up too fast. You become hyper-independent. You refuse help not because you don't need it, but because asking for it feels like admitting weakness. You push people away before they can get too close because intimacy feels dangerous. You've learned that people leave, that people hurt you, that people take and take until there's nothing left. So you build walls so high that no one can climb them. And you tell yourself it's self, but really, it's loneliness dressed up as strength. You also develop what's called emotional numbing. When you spend your childhood suppressing your feelings, your brain eventually learns to shut them down automatically. So even when good things happen, You can't fully feel them. Joy feels foreign. Happiness feels temporary. You're always waiting for the other shoe to drop because peace has never felt safe. Your nervous system has been trained to expect chaos. Stillness feels wrong. Calm feels suspicious. And so you sabotage it. You create problems where there are UNTini just so your body can return to the familiar state of stress. Because as painful as stress is, at least it's predictable. At least it's something you know how to navigate. But peace is terrifying when you've never been taught how to hold it. And then there's the guilt. The suffocating, irrational guilt that comes with finally putting yourself first. Because when you've spent your entire life being the caretaker, choosing yourself feels like betrayal. It feels selfish. It feels wrong. Even when you know logically that you deserve rest, that you deserve to have needs, that you deserve to be cared for. There's a voice inside you that says otherwise. That voice is the internalized message of your childhood. The message that said your worth is conditional, that love is something you earn, that you're only valuable when you're giving. And that voice is a liar. But it's a convincing one because it's been with you since before you could form memories. It's woven into the fabric of who you are. And unlearning, it takes more than just understanding it intellectually. It takes deep, painful, ongoing work. So what does healing look like? How do you undo years of conditioning? How do you teach yourself that you're allowed to be soft when you've spent a lifetime being strong? The first step is acknowledging what happened. And I don't mean just saying, yeah, my childhood was hard. I mean really sitting with it. Really allowing yourself to feel the weight of what you lost. Because you did lose something. You lost your childhood. You lost a chance to be carefree, to be protected, to be held. And you have every right to grieve that. You have every right to be angry about it. You don't have to forgive. You don't have to spiritually bypass the pain with mantras about everything happening for a reason. Sometimes things happen because the adults in your life failed you. And that's not your fault. But it is your responsibility now to heal. Not because you did anything wrong, but because you deserve a life that isn't ruled by survival patterns. The second step is learning to reparent yourself. This is one of those phrases that gets thrown around a lot in therapy spaces. But what does it actually mean? It means becoming the adult for yourself that you needed when you were a child. It means setting boundaries, even when it feels uncomfortable. It means saying no without It means allowing yourself to rest without feeling guilty. It means speaking kindly to yourself instead of with the harsh, critical voice you learn from people who are supposed to protect you. It means noticing when you're in survival mode and gently bringing yourself back to the present. Reminding yourself that you're safe now, that you don't have to hold everything together anymore. That it's okay to fall apart because you're not that child anymore. You're an adult with resources, with agency, with the power to choose differently. The third step is allowing yourself to need people. This is the hardest one because when you've been burned by the people who are supposed to take care of you, trusting again feels impossible. But isolation isn't protection. It's just another form of suffering. You don't have to let everyone in. You don't have to be vulnerable with people who haven't earned it. But you do need to find your people. The ones who don't expect you to have it all together. The ones who don't make you perform for their love. The ones who see your pain and don't run from it. Those people exist and you're allowed to lean on them. You're allowed to let them hold you when you're tired. You're allowed to admit that you're not okay. Because the truth is, you've been not okay for a very long time. And pretending otherwise hasn't made it better. It's only made you lonelier. There's a concept in psychology called earned secure attachment. It's the idea that even if you didn't have secure attachment as a child, you can develop it as an adult through healthy relationships and therapeutic work. Research shows that people who engage in therapy build supportive relationships. And actively work on their attachment patterns can actually rewire their brains. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to form new neural connections, means that you're not stuck with the patterns you learned in childhood. You can learn new ones. It takes chimi. It takes effort. It takes falling down and getting back up over and over again. But it's possible. You're not broken beyond repair. You're just carrying wounds that no one taught you how to heal. And here's something else that's important to understand. Healing isn't linear. There will be days when you feel like you've made so much progress, and then something will trigger you, and you'll feel like you're right back where you started. That's normal. That's part of the process. Trauma doesn't heal in a straight line. It spirals. You revisit the same wounds at different depths, and each time you do, you have the opportunity to heal them a little more, to understand them a little better, to release them a little further. So be patient with yourself. You're not failing if you have bad days. You're not regressing if old patterns resurface. You're a human. And humans are messy and complicated and beautifully imperfect. One of the most powerful things you can do is connect with your inner child. I know that sounds like therapy talk, but stay with me. Close your eyes and picture yourself as a child. Really see that kid. See their face, their clothes, the way they held themselves. Now ask them, what do you need? And listen, don't dismiss what comes up. Don't tell yourself it's silly or dramatic. Just listen. Maybe they need to hear that it wasn't their fault. Maybe they need to hear that they're safe now. Maybe they need to hear that they're loved not because of what they do, but because of who they are. Whatever it is, give it to them. Write them a letter. Talk to them out loud. Hold a pillow and imagine you're holding them. It might feel awkward at first. It might make you cry. Good. Because that child has been waiting a long time to be seen, to be held, to be told that they didn't deserve what happened to them. Here's the truth that no one tells you about growing up too fast. You can't get those years back. You can't undo what happened. But you can choose how you move forward. You can choose to stop living in survival mode. You can choose to set down the weight you've been carrying since you were too small to understand what it was. You can choose to be soft, even though the world taught you that softness is weakness. You can choose to rest even though your nervous system screams that rest is dangerous. You can choose to need people, even though every instinct tells you to stay isolated. These choices won't feel natural at first. They'll feel wrong. They'll feel scary. But that's because your body is used to chaos. It's used to constant vigilance. It's used to performing and pleasing and proving your worth. And now you're asking it to do something completely foreign, to just be, to exist without justification, to take up space without apologizing. That's revolutionary for someone who grew up too fast. And it's also terrifying. But on the other side of that terror is freedom. The freedom to finally grow up the right way. Not through pressure or trauma or survival, but through gentleness and patience and care. The childhood you didn't get to have doesn't have to define the adulthood you create for yourself. You get to write a different story now. One where you're not the child holding everything together. You're the adult who finally learned that falling apart is okay. That needing help is okay. That being human, messy, and imperfect, and beautifully vulnerable is okay. You never had a childhood, but you still have a future. And this Chimi, you get to be the one who decides what it looks like.